Soon, Nicole B's twin children will be old enough to vote. It was the Christmas season, 2007. Nicole B had just spent her first Christmas as a wife and mother of twin children who were several months old. The 26th, her husband was to get up with a friend and go hunting, and that day, tired from the rigors of the holiday season and motherhood, Nicole decided that it was a good idea to put a Duragesic patch, which had been sold to her, into a hot cup of coffee. She did this, and first, Mr. Speaker, she began to look sleepy. No one was in the house to notice. Her twin children played in a crib nearby as her husband was hunting with the very man who had sold her the Duragesic patch. Then, Mr. Speaker, if it proceeded as the science tells us, she began to make gurgling sounds right there next to her twins. Then she stopped breathing. She didn't realize she'd stopped breathing. She just stopped. And when her husband came in that December 26th day of 2007, she turned a horrifying shade of blue as the cyanosis had set in. Some of that may sound familiar, Mr. Speaker. It was gleaned from a speech that one of our former colleagues gave as he sounded the alarm last year. As I prepared for this point of personal privilege, I looked up the story of Nicole B. as I often think about her twin children who I've not seen since the court case that as a first-year Commonwealth's attorney I prosecuted, and I think about those kids who will soon be old enough to vote. I was interviewed in a newspaper story in the Times-Dispatch about this, and I pointed out, and I quote, between 2005 and 2007, more than 1,000 people will die of fentanyl overdoses in the United States. Mr. Speaker, that many will die in Virginia this year alone before June. Put another way, in 20 years of involvement in the Vietnam War, about 1,500 Virginians lost their lives. That many will be killed by fentanyl this year before the calendar reaches fall, just in Virginia. Over 2,000 Virginians would be here from last year alone if they hadn't been introduced to the poison that is fentanyl. Nicole B's children will never know their mom, who died of cyanosis by their side on the day after Christmas before they reached their first birthday. Mr. Speaker, fentanyl dealers and suppliers, whether intentional or unintentional, are killers, and yet somehow inexplicably this General Assembly has decided to let those who kill with fentanyl receive little or reduced prosecution. Both the House and Senate have had bills that would have addressed deaths by fentanyl. And both of those chambers killed those bills. During the State of the Commonwealth address in this very chamber, Governor Youngkin spoke about getting tough on fentanyl dealers. One side of the chamber applauded, the other sat in telling silence. Telling because, Mr. Speaker, the next thing that happened was the side that didn't applaud the idea of getting tough on the people who will kill more Virginians before fall than died in 20 years of involvement in Vietnam, then carried and passed a bill that would make it a misdemeanor to possess 500 lethal doses of fentanyl. Mr. Speaker, from Hammurabi to Moses to Muhammad, the most basic concept of justice requires that if you unjustly take the life of another, you must be held accountable. 250 of our brothers and sisters in this Commonwealth have given their lives to fentanyl since we gavelled in, since January. Fentanyl dealers, Mr. Speaker, what we do speaks more loudly than what we say. Last year, that former colleague who I paraphrased said that fentanyl is a killer. Mr. Speaker, he was wrong. Fentanyl is a weapon used by killers. It is our responsibility as members of this General Assembly to make it absolutely clear to those who kill with this poison that they will be held accountable, that they will go to jail for a long time. And I hope that that would serve as a deterrent. But at the very least, if we hold them to this standard, they won't be in a position to kill again. And the tragedy is, Mr. Speaker, until we act differently than we have so far this year, we are going to keep losing our brothers and sisters, our sons and daughters, our mothers and fathers, 5 a day, every day. Thank you, Mr. Speaker.